So what's in the box? So yes, I've been to the port of Brisbane again and got some long awaited shipment. You'll find out what's in the box shortly. Right, back to the main event. And today is sorting the C-pillar situation out. Or more to the point, basically the rake of this back window. As we can see, that gap there, this bit is lifting up. In preparation for that, mark the centre line, because obviously when I cut this and cut this, it can all wobble about all over the place, so I mark the centre line so that I'm sure that the centre of the roof here matches the centre of this cross brace, so I know I've got no misalignment. So that's what we've got to do. And to do that, the first thing I have to do is go to the front of the car. So in order for this roof to sit down properly, right into the gutter, mark and cut these bits and take this out, because this edge needs to match in this edge. Now it's time to cut the top of this C-pillar. So you can see I've marked it there. You may wonder why I've marked it not straight. Simple. There's a hole there and a little dent, so when I weld it up, I don't want to be welding anything that's uneven. I want to just weld flat pieces of metal. So I'm going to cut it from there all the way up there and across. So effectively this bit then will just be loose. Put the roof back on, pull this upwards, clamp it to the Kevlar roof. I've just made these little tags. I should just be able to weld on, keep it in place, and then the gap that's down here, obviously cut a template, fill it in and weld it in. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Actually not looking forward to this bit. Should be right. I ordered these September 2013. So yes, long awaited. And as usual, it's lifted on with the forklift. I've got to get this fucker off by hand. Yeah, it's heavy. I'll just have to wait for my neighbour to shift, and then I'll put the trailer a bit further down so it's not on such a steep angle, and we'll drag it off. Come on, hurry up, numpty. Neighbours, who'd have them? Huh? Oh. It's not that heavy. I get this off. The box, however, is on the point of collapse. Literally. There we go. So, as you can see, border force has been in, no lid left. Instead of dragging this up, we might as well take it apart here. Anybody guess what's in here? Easy as then, I take it. Let me just remove it. Pair of complete doors. The one-piece glass. No quarter light there. So there you go. That's one. So yeah, paid for September 23, and they've come all the way from Sweden. And what else is in the box? Mirrors. And what's the condition of the doors? Average. Dent there, dent there, and a massive fuck off crease there. But that's okay. I've chopped a car in half and welded it back together. A couple of dents is a drop in the ocean. So a tiny little bit of rust there and there and there on the edges, but the bottoms seem solid, all good. So not quite as straight as these, but these are not mine. Nevertheless, I have my own two-door Audi A2B2 doors with glass, with no front quarter, full glass, which is just what I wanted. So I'm very happy to see these after 18 months. Happy days. That's that cut, completely loose. So there you go, cut right from the edge, cut up there, and this is what I mean. It'll then pull up to somewhere like that. Just lay the Kevlar roof pack over the top. So, as I said before, these need to align and they're out, which means this moves slightly, so it needs to come over. There you go. That's spot on in line. And if we can see the gap, it's difficult to see, all the way up there. Gap there. Yeah, it wasn't that scary in the end. Coming along. So in its basic form, I should say in its very basic form, there it is. Cut and tilted up to match the profile of the Sport Quattro roof and rear window. Never ending, eh? But we keep progressing slowly. There you go, correct angle of rear screen. But before I go any further, I think I'm well overdue to sort this bracing out. It's constantly in the way, can't get in, can't get out, and it's time it came out. If you remember this crossbar, and this crossbar was only put in when I was cutting it in half to set the B pillars in place so they didn't move. Same with this door bar. That was to make sure that there was no movement in that A-pillar. And then these crossbars were put on when I had it on the rotisserie, and it was going to have no roof to make it all strong and not move. So they're not really needed anymore. As we know, got that roll cage tube in there. I've got the B pillars tied into the turrets. I've now got roll cage tube all the way down. So I think it's as strong as. The only thing that's not connected is here. And as long as I've got that C pillar all connected and all welded in before I put this back on the rotisserie, it's definitely never going to move. While it's still on this big chunky frame, certainly don't need this bracing anymore. So that's next on the job list. Let's have that out. Oh, there we go. First time in forever. No bracing. However, before we can fill this section in, the C pillar needs moving and setting at the right angle, as in it needs to meet there. And for me to know where it needs to meet there, I've got to build this return out. So that's the next job to do. So we'll crack out the new tool, the metal brake. So having played with the metal brake for the first time, this is the first effort. However, the metal brake won't do bends that close. Tried to bend this over manually, and as you can see, I had to hit the shite out of it with a hammer, which means that edge is absolutely nowhere near crisp and clean, so that won't do. Now this is what the metal brake will do. As you can see, that's a nice crisp edge, as is that one. So what I have to do, because it won't do two bends in close proximity, I'm going to have to build that return in 3 pieces. But needs must. Right, let's get on with that. This is what I need to build. So if we're looking directly from front to back, this is the gutter and return. That's the roll cage going down here. And the black line is the section that I've got to build. This bit here is the recess for the window. This section here is this section, which I'll show you. And this is the return back, which I'll weld on here. So, as I say, I can't actually fabricate that with my metal brake. So, this is how I'm going to fabricate it. It's going to have 3 pieces that will fit together. And that's what it looks like, measured out. Now, you might think it's a little bit long, but I've got to do both sides. So, I'm going to cut them out, bend them, fabricate them so they're exactly the same, and then I'll chop it down the middle. And I know they'll be exactly the same. So right, chop those out and let's get to the bender. So this is the first bit. This is the return for the window. A 15mm return either side, so straight down the middle there is where we need to bend it. So that side, 15mm, that side 15mm, clamp it down, and fingers crossed, this should be a nice neat edge, and it needs to be 90 degrees Honestly, it's all fucking bending, flicks, and it's shite, this fucking bender. Absolute fucking wank. Sorry, did I swear? What I actually meant then was the tool's flexing. So the two parts of the bender is actually pulling apart, which means it's not creating a sharp edge. Hence the language, and hence being a little bit pissed off. So you can see it's bending it okay at one side. But this end is really not as good. So I might be better off bending it, cutting it, and bending it into halves. Don't get me by cheap shit. But that's pretty much the radius that I wanted. With a little bit of persuasion, not too bad. That's okay anyway, because this is going to be the window flange. So the rubber's going to fit in there, and this is going to fit behind the other piece. So that bit is not critical. However, the next bit is this bit will be the edge that you can see. So from the gutter downwards, this will be the body that you'll see, and the wind will be below it. So this piece needs to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be pretty good with this bendy frigging bender. Honestly, I could have done better if I made it myself, I reckon. Anyway, what I'm going to do is cut this in half and give it a better chance. Right, so this, I need to be a nice crisp edge. It's better, it's definitely better. Not bad. It's still not crispy enough edge that I wanted. So that is going to sit up on that edge, basically like that. So you probably not even notice. Same for this one. 20mm. Oh, bender may be shite, but I think it's still going to be better than doing it in a vise. So it is what it is. Nice and straight anyway. Right, and this one's not that critical with measurement, because I know I'm going to have to adjust and slip one end off, and the other flange sits behind the other. It is a much better bend when I do it in two pieces, but still, why do they sell fucking bender that doesn't bend metal all the way across? Shitheads. Right, let's show you what that looks like. Right, let's see if we can manage to put these together. So, piece one, piece two, piece three, piece one, This will be just sat under the gutter. This will be the bodywork, and that's the recess for the window. What do you reckon? Think it'll look alright? Well, that's my plan. And this is them primed with weld through primer and some plug welds. Let's see how they fit. Move it back a little bit because we need to test fit the B-pillar. So that's the bodywork return that you'd see. And then this one is the return for the window. So if you then get the B-pillar, slide it in there. So that's basically what I need to fab. And obviously I need to measure and cut this, slit this here, and bring this whole C-pillar up. And this, the edge that the window sits on, meets this bit. So you see there's quite a gap. So yeah, currently the gap between where the C-pillar is and where the window reveal is at the minute is about 35mm. So this needs to come out and lift up, and that needs to meet that. So there is an order. I have to weld these together as well, and then weld it on the car. So this is the window, what the window rubber sits on. This is the underside of the reveal, so you don't see this bit. So this is where the welds are going to be hidden. And this is weld through primer. It'll be okay. Put some gloves on. The experience is I'm a fucking idiot and I keep touching hot things. And this bit fits like that, so we'll weld that from the inside. So I'll plug weld it from underneath and maybe stitch weld it and maybe even put a run in behind there, and that's the return. Obviously needs some tidying up, but I don't think you can say that's not strong. See how that fits. We have to make sure it's exactly in line. It's the same profile as the door. So all good. First piece of the jigsaw. Right. The only way to start building this B-pillar up and getting that return in place is to actually weld something in place and start making it. I'll tack the B-pillar roughly in place. So now if we get this tacked up, that's not a bad fit. I think next we can spot weld it under there and then run a bead in there and grind it back. So there's the return welded in place and ground back, and the B-pillar butt up to that somewhere around there. So still a lot of work to do on the B-pillar, so we'll just rest that in place. Shut the door. So once it's in there and aligned, that's where the B-pillar will be. So here's the window, sat into the rubber, and there you go. Now it would have been very easy to fabricate this hole roughly and not take care, and then just put a piece of perspex to fit it. but that's not what I'm doing. This piece of temporary perspex is made from a template of a Sport Quattro. Absolute perfect fit. As regards to the dimensions, top and bottom, happy days. There you go. Just proved that that opening is exactly the right size for a Sport Quattro window. Next bit is to fabricate this end. And again, I'm not going to use the window as a template. I'm going to fabricate this by setting this angle as I think it is, and wherever it meets there. And then again, the test is, does the window fit in the opening? This is correct. That's correct. Obviously I've got to do a bit of setting in for there, and this is just the final piece now. So how do I set this angle? Well, I know this is 45 degrees, so if we set the angle to 45, that's 45. We'll use some good old duct tape just to keep it honest. So that's sat on the window rail, and that is 45 degrees. So what I need to do then is follow this line up, and where it intersects with this is where they need joining. Well, that's the theory. So if we get this on, surprise, surprise, it's too friggin' long. Said no woman ever. So we'll get a shorter one. Not something my wife's ever said. Oops, I'm gonna be in trouble for that one. That's 45 degrees, exactly. And where these intersect is basically there, where the corner. So that's the bit that I'm aiming for. This edge has got to be brought up, because this is the window reveal, so is this. So these two have to meet, and they have to meet down that line. Not quite sure how this is going to work yet. Now, I do have to recut that, because I need to move this. So I need to cut this somewhere, not decided yet, to lift the whole thing up and meet there. So I'm not going to cut that yet. I just want to leave a little bit of wiggle room. And I need to basically get this cut to free it up. Right, fingers and toes crossed. Having done a little bit of measuring, this section here is actually too long, so I will need to shorten this. I obviously want to retain this corner, and well, that's there, so I'll be chopping a bit out of here. So that probably makes it a little bit easier. If I put a cut across there and cut all the way down there, basically take the C-pillar off, I can then marry this up to this, and this end, I could actually just overlap them and plug weld them if I wanted to, and then seam weld them. I can do what the fuck I like, it's my car. Anyway, basically I'm gonna have a hack C-pillar off now, aren't I? To get it correct, I do need to cut that off at the correct place, so I need to measure that across here in the window. Right, not going back now, but we've said that a few times, haven't we? So let's just get it cut and see what happens, eh? We need to retain this, so we want to make sure if we've got to take some out of here, we don't want to cut that, so we'll take it right back from that point to around there. That's the line. What could possibly go wrong? Well, there you go. And no, I've never seen a Sport Quattro built that's had the C-pillar taken out, but mine has. So that is basically going to get welded in there, like that. As I say, if I want to, I can just overlap those put plug welds in if I wanted to. Basically, that's where it fits. So next job is basically tapping it in place, and let's see if this window fits. So what I'm testing now is, does it fit in here, and does this meet this? So there we go. Rubber fits right into the recess in the corner. Corner fits the corner. And obviously with a bit of persuasion, when this end's done, that glass will fit in somewhere like that. So I think we've got it. I think we've finally got it. So I'm happy with that basic opening now. Just got to set this edge around here. Got to fabricate a bit in there. And I've got to do an inner return in here because at the minute it's open. And then put a patch in there. So as for this joint, I will put a cut in there and butt them up to each other instead of overlapping. I'm not starting cutting corners now. So that'll just be good. Cheers.